Hey guys, I'm back again. So let me just click this. Okay, so the last video we did about this Angular testing was the services. We were checking the services. Actually, it was I have a ton of crap here. Okay, let me just leave that open. So okay, here we are in the post service that spec.ts, which is a testing file. So we left this ready in order to continue. So let's just go here and say ng test and let's see what it brings. And meanwhile, we still need here in this service to test the post and get requests. Okay, so that is what we're going to do now. So let me just check my word wrap so I can see everything. Okay, let's get this. It's not that. This one is taking a little bit. Okay, it's testing. It's running Karma and Jasmine in order to test. So let's just wait for this a little bit, and we should be okay. Karma, and everything should be fine. Yep. Okay. So let's leave that open, and let's actually minimize that. We don't need to check the browser right now. So okay, we need first to check the get request. So we're going to say describe. So let's say get request, something like that. And this is a function. So what this should do, so this get request should return a set of posts. So this one is going to check the main route that is going to redirect, or no, sorry, not redirect, but it's going to retrieve all the posts. Okay, so this is also a function. So what we need to do here, because we don't want, although we don't want, but we can access the network, we can access the API actually, but here Angular allows us to just set some data in a mockup. Okay, so we can just use that. This could be, or this is going to be something similar to what we have or what we expect to have in the API in the database. Okay, so let's do this. Let's say constant dummy posts. This is type any. We're using Angular 9, so we also we are not using a strict mode, so we can use any in this case. Okay, we don't mind too much about setting interfaces in this case, so let's not bother with that. So let's say data, and we expect this dummy post to have a data object, which is how the API is going to respond. Okay, so what we expect an object of, since it's MongoDB, an ID that we can set something. Okay, remember that this is just a mockup, so we kind of know what is returning. Of course, if you set an interface, then you will be able to get the correct typings, but right now it's not something that important in this example. So let's say lorem ipsum, something like that. We also expect a content field or property. So let me just grab all this lorem ipsum that I have there. I don't have word. What the hell is that? Let me just view or wrap. Okay, so we can see, and the comma is right there. Okay. Also, we are going to return a cover, and let's just say HTTP. At this point, this could be anything. So let's just say HTTP cover name. .jpg. Okay, something like that. Remember that this is a mockup, and the cover name, which in this case is going to be the reference of the name of the image. So let's say cover name, and just like that. Okay, so we expect this response or to response to be shaped in this way: ID, title, content, cover, and cover name. Okay, all this wrapped inside this data array. Okay, so let's just do one more. Copy and paste. You could even roll with one, but let's just do one more. Let's say 4, 5, 6. Lorem ipsum 2. And let's just change a few things. Something like that, just to make it different. Okay. So that is our mockup. That is what we expect. In this case, if you think it like this, we only have 2 objects or 2 posts in the database. Okay, so this is our kind of database. So okay, I need to install that freaking. Okay, it's array. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so we have the mockup. Let me just add mockup, API response mockup, and let's continue. So after this is going to be pretty simple, kinda. Remember that we have the service instance. So let's say service that, and you can see we can access the methods inside the service. Okay, so we can say get post, which is the method that is going to return every post in the database. We say subscribe. We pass, or we expect to have a response. So we expect this response to equal dummy posts. So we expect the response here to be equal to what we have here. This is something like a placebo effect, where we are just setting our information and passing actually this into this mockup of the HTTP request. Okay, so we are going to get actually the dummy posts. So it's something kind of weird if you're not used to use this kind of testings. So in this case, we just set the function of the get posts, and we expect the return to be equal to what we are having here. Okay, so create a new constant, which is the request actually, and let's say HTTP testing controller that expect 1. So we expect the call to be set to HTTP localhost 4000, which is our API, and we have this one, which is going to return the first set, in that case from MongoDB. So expect mock request that method. So here we can just start checking the methods, the responses of the mock request, which is, as it says, mocking up an HTTP call to this URL. Okay, and we expect that method to be get. So we expect this get post to make a get request to this HTTP localhost 4000 API 1. Okay, we can check some other things. So let me just say expect. I can remember which things we can check. Request that. We can check params, body, request type, URL. So we can check a ton of things there if we want. Right now we are only going to check the get request, the method to be get, and mock request that flush. So what flush is going to do is going to pass the information, okay, that we have here into the controller. So we just have kinda a request using that information. Okay, so in this case the response is going to be kinda what we have here. So this is let me post. This is only to test that the HTTP is getting or is making the correct assumptions. In this case, checking if if the method is get. Maybe you are sending some headers or something like that, or a parameter, and you need to check that. So you can check them using the expect, the mockup request, the request object, and whatever you want to check there. Okay, you say it to be whatever, or if it's true or false, you can check those. So this is a little more complicated depending on what you are going to do. So we're not going to go there because it's going to be a ton of things. But I have the post request also, and we're going to do that in a second. So as I said, this is kind of placebo effect, and it's something that kind of confuses certain people, or a lot of people, including me. So we are injecting the same data into the controller that we are checking. Okay, so that is kind of what is going on. So we are just checking that the HTTP request is making the correct assumptions. We don't care here about the data. Okay, so this one should be set, and let's actually save that, and let's see if that works. Where the hell is my is it going to test again? Okay, it was building. This is something that I don't like. No. Well, it actually terminated the... Okay, let's wait for that. Sorry guys if I sound a little tired. I am a little tired. So, even though it's 2 p.m., this weekend was a ton of work. So, yeah. Let's see if we get the correct. Okay, so we should have the get request and should return a set of posts. As I said again, this is kind of a placebo effect where we are injecting the data that we are testing. Again, we are just checking the assumptions of the request and if the HTTP method is being done correctly. After this one, let's create a new one, describe. So this one is going to be the same. So let's actually run through this. So this one, get single post. So this is kind of the same that what we did for all the posts. So let's say it should return the correct response object depending of the ID. So that should be, but let's just continue. So remember that this get single post grabs the ID that we have and makes the request. So let's say constant dummy ID 123. You can also pass parameters. I think I had that in another example, not this one, but this is what we are going to pass, okay, in our heads as the ID. So that is the ID, constant dummy post equals. So we do this. We create this mock-up of the information that we expect to have. So inside we have an object, and let me just copy all this because it's the same object that we created before. Only one because we only expect one. Okay. So what the hell is this? Expression detected. Okay, did I do something wrong there? It seems. Okay, let me just get all this crap. Did I add a comma there? Okay. Okay, that should be fine. So let's just return with the, I think I did that wrong. Yeah, so the dummy post is going to be equals to this object that contains the data, okay? The data with the mockup request. So I think I did that wrong last time. So let's just do it because in case you are following, you might be thinking, what the fuck are you doing? So, sorry guys, as I said, I'm a little tired. So, sorry if I mess some things up, you know. So, okay, let me just copy that. And this time we should be done. Okay. So now we're selecting that, it's getting this as a constant. And this is the end. Okay. So, we have that. We should be here. Okay. So below that, we just do the same as we did here, but getting the service instance with the correct method, that is the get single post. And you can see it has this kind of error which is say, hey dude, you need one argument, you need the ID. So we pass dummy ID. Okay. Remember that the dummy ID is what we did here on line 74. Okay. After that, we just say subscribe because this is still the HTTP request. We expect the response. Expect the response. Okay, now we can check the response data. So the response data is actually this. As I said, we are just sending the same information and testing that we are injecting into the HTTP request. Okay, so inside this get post, we're injecting the dummy post. Okay, this is for all the posts, and we are checking that the response that we're injecting is the response that we're getting. I mean the request. So here is the same. The response we are expecting is what we are going to flush into the HTTP mockup request. Okay. So response data, we expect one object, so we pass the 0, and we can check the ID that is going to respond, that is this one. Let me make this a little bigger because this is kind of a little different than what we had here, that is just checking the full request. So response data, the first set or the first object, because the API is only going to return one. Okay, so we pass the ID and we say to equal. So we expect the ID that we are getting inside our dummy post to be equal to the ID we are passing, okay, as the ID inside this get single post. A little confusing, I know, but this is how it is. So yeah. So the 1, 2, 3 here should be similar, or should be not similar, but should be the same as the 1, 2, 3 that we have here. Okay. After that, we just do again. I think I can copy this one. And you can see we are setting the mockup request, we are expecting the call to be to the HTTP localhost 4000 API post, which is a route in the API, and the ID that we want to send into the API. Of course, you can set this to be dummy ID, so you can only change this one. Okay, so you can just change this and it's going to reflect there, but it's just simple testing. You don't need to go full, I don't know. So expect, so again we expect the mock request. So see what we are doing here. Here we're only checking that we are returning all the posts, and here inside the service we're checking, we're expecting. Okay, so we are doing 2 expects, and we can do more, of course. So just to make sure that you get this, but in this case we're expecting, or we are checking this expect into the mock request, not the response. Okay, so mock request that method, and it's just the same. We're going to check if the method was sent using the get verb to be get. So we have that. Okay, and again to the mock request we flush, or we pass the dummy post. Again, placebo effect. We are passing the same information that we expect to receive. Okay, so yeah, and that, let's just copy this one, save that one, and let's check. Get single post, it returns as true, should return the correct response data, response object. And we can move now to the final, so you can check for post, put, delete, whatever. I'm just checking, I think I'm just checking the post and the get. I don't know why I didn't check the others, but should be similar. So at least you know how you can just get the service, test the function, make the mock HTTP request, okay, to your API or whatever, and of course this is not going to go all the way to the API, and you know how to inspect or expect and test the methods, requests, responses, and all that. Okay, so everything else should be similar, so let's not worry too much about those. Now let's say describe. So this is the last one for today. For this service. So the post request, and I use this one because this should also be similar to the mockup. Sorry, not to the put, because we're going to mock up a file, and we will see how to do that. So let's say it should return the correct object data, and let's just say and file, because we're not checking inside the API for a specific extension, but in this case, just to make sure that we can add a little bit more into this, let's say and file must be JPG. Okay, because we're going to test using the mockup file, and we will need to add the extension to that, so we can just test it. Okay, so let's say mockup file. So this is going to run, or this function that we're going to test now is going to run when we create a new post. So remember, we have a cover there. So let's say let f equals to new file, we pass an array. So let me just continue. So that is the blob. We pass the name just like that. We don't need to be too specific in this, and we specify the Mime type. So this is the type, and we're going to say image JPG. Okay, just that simple. You can say PNG, or you can check for GIF or whatever, but this is going to be the structure of our file, and let mock file equals to file, and we need to actually parse this. So this is a blob. Let's say this blob. So this is a blob. This is not a file per se, and this is the file that we are going to send. Okay, so we actually need to use the file, how can I call this, the interface file, so we can parse this blob into a file. So TypeScript doesn't complain about that. Constant dummy post equals to an object. Let me just grab all this and paste it. So this dummy post is going to have only the title and content. In this case, just to prepare what is going to be the post request. But still, so this is going to be the other properties. Let's say properties for the post create, something like that. Okay, because here we will need to add again the let's say response expected, something like that. We will need to add again our constant dummy response. Okay, so we can check that we have something similar. Okay, so I will recap in a second, so don't worry too much if you kind of don't get this. Let's just finish this and let's go through all this once again after that, so you can see what is going on. So service that again add post. So this is the function that is going to allow us to create a new post. Sorry if you hear the freaking cars there, you know, some stupid people. So let's say we expect 2 arguments because 0, of course. But we expect here, we expect the post object and the file. So we say dummy post. In this case, the dummy post is only going to give us the title and content. We expect an object there. So this is going to be retrieved for by the form, and we expect the mock file, which is going to be retrieved again also by the form, but with a different method, and we will do that later in the when we build the create, so you can see how everything fits together. So subscribe, sorry, just got lost there a little bit. Response, and we just continue expect. So here, remember that we can expect, we can check whatever we want from the response or even the request. Response data. So this should be wrapped, not like that. Data, just like this. We can just check for anything inside there, as we did with the ID up here. Okay. So we expect the title to equal dummy post title. So we are just checking that the title matches what we are sending inside this dummy post. Remember, this is just a placebo effect, but only to test that the mockup is doing what it, or I mean that the HTTP is doing what it needs to do, and we don't receive an error there. So because we could receive an error if the well, let's not go there. Let's save that for later. Constant. I was going to say something, but I'm not sure about that, so I better don't say that. I don't want to confuse anyone or to just say something that is wrong. So again, we create the mockup. We expect one call to be set to the HTTP localhost 4000, no 400, 4000, and API create. So this is what we expect to be. At least the mockup HTTP request call. So here we can just expect the mock request, that request method to be post, because we're sending a post request, of course, that's what we are checking here. So remember that this function is setting a post request. So let me just go here. Okay, so these are the functions that we are testing, okay, that we are using. Let's close this and expect another one. Mock request cancel. We can check if the post was cancelled for any reason to be falsy. So we expect this call to not be cancelled, okay? And I think we can check I have this one to check if it's JSON. So let's see if that works. And again, mock request, we flush the data that is going to be, not flush, but flush, that is going to be our dummy response. Let's save that. Okay, so this is the post and this is the data. Sorry, my mouse is kind of working. It's kind of not working. So if I try to select something, sometimes it doesn't do. But this is the dummy response, what we need to pass inside the flush, okay? Let's save that again and let's check if everything goes fine. Where is that? It says 12. Okay, should return correct response object, should return a set of posts, should return the correct object data, and file must be a JPG. What happens if I click that? Okay, so I might need to check. Should be create a response object. Everything is going fine, but I can't remember how to set this. Okay, of course, I could just create a new describe with the post request and only check if that is equal to JSON. So let's just leave that there, and you know, for future things, we're going to continue with testing, of course, as we move, so we can just add it to kind of regular workflow. So we're going to continue with testing with React View and all those, so don't worry too much about that. Of course, if you are here, you care only about Angular, but just to say that we're going to continue with this. So let's save that again, and all this is returning fine, and I think this should be it for the rest. You can see that it's kind of a ton of work just to kind of get this placebo effect, but it's going to allow you, sorry, in this case, think it like this. We have the type of the image. We can check that the type is correct. Okay, we can check that the file size is correct. We can check whatever we want from here, and we know if something is working or not. Okay, so every time we make a change, we run the tests again inside the well, inside our application and see if anything breaks. If something breaks, then it means that we need to just specify the changes that we did and just continue with development. So it's kind of weird, yes, I know, but even though you can just move along with this or don't do it if you don't want to do it, still testing is not something that you will kind of require in most jobs. So just to get an idea of what is going on inside these spec.ts files. Okay, so that's all guys, thank you and see you in the next one.